I'm so excited because I'm back together again today with my friend, mentor, and just longtime colleague, Joanne Black. Joanne, welcome. It's so great to see you.
Oh, it's always a treat, and you ask such wonderful questions.
Ah, oh, that's great. Well, we just got together in Dallas last month. You were one of the honorees with the Sales Decades Project, which is a little harebrained idea that I put together last year because I wanted people to see some of the women who have been doing big things in sales over the years. And if we did it by decade, then we would start with the decade that some of us are in, which was we got our sales chops going in the 1980s. So congratulations for being an honoree, Joanne. It was such a pleasure to have you there and for being there in person. Thank you.
Oh, it was a treat and so well done. And I know next year you're going to do the 90s. So we're going to look forward to that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Joanne, you are a strategic advisor for revenue growth. You're the founder of No More Cold Calling. Your mantra is referrals drive revenue, and you have a big celebration happening this year. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Okay, so I started my company in 1996. It's now 2026. I did the math, 30 years, right? I don't know how it happened, but it did.
No, time
Over
flies,
those
right?
years.
Crazy. It's
But
amazing.
it's an exciting time. And
Yeah.
it's a long time to be in the same business, but I'm still thrilled with everything and people need help in driving revenue.
Yes, and you're still engaging with people and writing and speaking and all sorts of things. And I just, I just think it's wonderful all the contributions that you've made so far. And yet we haven't talked in a while on the podcast. You were a guest quite some time ago, so I'm really happy to have you back. But tell us just briefly how you got started in sales.
I never thought I'd be in sales because I was the shyest kid, totally shy, didn't ever like to meet new people, and I'm an introvert. Uh, but that has no bearing on sales because it's been shown that introverts actually make better salespeople. I think because we ask questions really to get clarification. Um, but I didn't show up that way as an introvert, I don't think. In fact, I know I did not. Um, it's just such an exciting, well, what do I say? An exciting way to work
Yeah.
to actually help people because that's what we do. Help people in what their problem is. And they all have problems. We just have to dig and figure out what the real problem is.
Yeah. And one of your specialties is in teaching reps and leaders of companies how to grow revenue through referral. And I think that's fabulous. I respect that a lot because I have found that to be the best way as well. Uh, but tell me what's still the same about that and what's changed over the years because people say, "Oh yeah, referrals for sure." But I don't think they really know what you mean when you talk about your like you have a whole process for this.
I do. I have a system and people really respond to that. But to get to your question about what's changed a lot and not a lot. So in 1996, the economy was great. And I was working for a consulting firm, and my colleague said, "Joanne, you're going to start your own company." Okay. But referrals weren't even on my radar. I thought what I wanted to do was to work with smaller companies and build a sales plan into their business plan because back then you couldn't find sales anyplace.
Right.
I don't believe in fate. I do believe in serendipity. And while I was working with this client, they were doing a customer satisfaction of 50 of their best clients. And it was several rounds. And I asked the question on the last round, would you be willing to be a referral to this company? It was a 7-point scale. 7 was high. My question came back 6.5.
Well,
So I couldn't wait to the next management meeting. And I said, 50 of your best clients are saying they'd be glad to refer you. Are you asking?
yeah.
The answer was no in 1996. And one of the things that hasn't changed, it's no today, because I ask that question all the time. I've asked it through the years. The answer is always no. And so that's how it got started. I figured I needed to test referrals. I knew my best business had come that way, but I talked to salespeople, sales execs. Do you like to get referrals? Yeah, well, they gave me this whole list. And then I said, that's great. Do you have a referral system with a strategy, metrics, skills, and accountability for results? And again, it was no in 1996, and 30 years later, it's still no.
What do you think
So
that
that
is?
was my
Because I'm with you on this. I mean, you've got to have a process in place. I use something I call it the third list. That, we have a list of our customers, we have a list of our prospects. Everyone knows that. Everyone does that, hopefully. But the third list are those strategic people that can refer you multiple customers and clients on an ongoing basis, year after year after year. And yet people don't keep track of that list of people or put a process in place like you're referring to. Why, Joanne?
there's a lot that gets in the way, which I've learned over the years. Um, so one of the things is people are uncomfortable asking.
Mm.
And that aha came to me about 10 years ago when two seasoned sales guys, they told me they were in their 50s. Guys tell you their age, but
Yeah.
they said they weren't comfortable asking. They didn't know why. So I figured, well, if they're not comfortable, everybody must be. So I call out the elephant in the room now really early because that really brings people together. They know they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
And so working together, we have a system, we get over that. However, it's an issue for so many people. And what's happening now on referrals, I want to differentiate. Everybody gets what I call inbound referrals. If you get an email, you get something on LinkedIn, maybe even your phone rings, or you get a text, and it's somebody saying, so and so referred me and said we should talk. That's great, but we have no control over that. And I want to have control.
Yeah.
So what's not happening is what I call outbound referrals. Companies have a referral system, and referrals become their number one way of prospecting.
That's great. That's great. And what is it that pisses you off about the referral world or the lack of referrals?
It's that's a great question, and I'm stumped by it all the time because every sales leader I've talked to says referrals are the best business. Well, what do? They tell their team to go get referrals, and then they're why that didn't happen, or it does once in a while. But it's not systematic. It's not the way they build business, and it becomes so frustrating for me, Lori, especially now when I'm reading all of this stuff. I'm calling this my technical term on LinkedIn about how to get to your C level. How do you do this? How do you talk to people? And they talk about all these different things. Nobody ever mentions referral
Yeah.
because that's the number one way, right? You get an introduction, you get the meeting.
Yeah.
That's thin.
Yeah. And I know one of your pet peeves is that people have these accidental referrals and
Yeah.
and it ties into the fact that they don't have a plan in place, right?
And so that's why I'm still here 30 years later, because people are still doing the same dumb stuff. And I say that intentionally. Why would you spend all this time and all this money and not get results? I mean, I've seen pictures on LinkedIn where somebody has showed their chart. They made this many calls, they got this many meetings. I mean, it's like I just roll my eyes. I want to scream, but I don't.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're not screaming. Um, but there shouldn't be accidental referrals. It should be planned out. It's a strategic way to build revenue, right?
That's correct.
How do people work with you or how do they find your programs?
Oh, they find me because I get introductions to people I want to meet. So they don't act, well, they do find me from time to time. That's fine. But I think there still is perception. Oh, yeah, referrals are nice.
Yeah,
They don't see it as their number one outbound prospecting approach.
right.
And so there's the contradiction, right? Referrals are the best business. Well, they kind of happen, but it's not the way we work.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You know what? I think part of the problem is that people get it when people start in sales, they don't know that many people. They don't have a big network. And somehow they learn other ways, to be successful. Because that's something I noticed when the tech market was really booming, was that the newest reps, the SDRs and the BDRs, they didn't have a big network of people to connect with, even though there's still some strategies for building strategic partners through companies that are on the periphery of the companies, what you do and who you sell to. There are other companies that sell to the same people. And even if you don't know them, you can get to know them over time and they can be good strategic partners. So I was that's one of the things I have thought about in recent days is that people didn't start out learning about referrals, but I feel like it's a fundamental issue that should be talked about at the beginning of someone's sales career.
obviously I agree. And to your point about people not having that many connections, remember a couple years ago, two people they said they were 20, 21, and they'd started with a company. And they said, we don't have any clients. What do we do about referrals? Well, I found out, of course, they went to college. So you know so many people.
Yeah,
And you know the parents, a lot of these people. You have access. It's not customers right away, obviously.
right.
See, the shade went down. I can't do this because I don't know that many people. We all do. It could be a next door neighbor, it could be a religious organization, it could be pickleball,
Right.
whatever, right? Whatever it is, we know people.
Yeah.
Uh, but when you talked about SDRs and BDRs, this is like a pain point for me because I've been to meetings, small ones, when there's been SDRs in the room. And they said, of course, my dad says no more cold calling, and everybody
Yeah.
laughs. And they said, "Oh, dear, Katie, would you please tell our boss we don't want to do this?" And of course, I didn't.
Yeah.
I knew the boss, and he knew what I did.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, this is how we introduce sales to young people. They have to cold call. I mean, it's the worst introduction to sales I can think of. Now, for me, okay, going back decades, right? When I worked for these two consulting and training firms I worked for, we had clients and it just all came together.
Yeah.
So it's really about looking at who you know and writing the names down. And I say, put them in categories. So if you've been in business a little bit and you do have some clients, you know people in a company, you write those down. And then another column for the people you know um, personally. And how do you know them? For another column, if you just got out of college, for those, for your religious, whatever it is,
Yeah.
where do you connections, right? And you need to write it down, otherwise it doesn't happen. And write it down with the people you know best at the top, because that's where you start. Sometimes the fallacy is, well, I don't think that person would know the people I want to meet.
Right.
No, that's not the question. The question is, who do they know that you should meet?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. How does trust play into all of this?
Oh, you asked such an important question, Lori. Having been in sales a long time as we have, we know that unless people trust us, nothing's going to happen. But because it's the old fashioned way of like banging on the door or knocking on the door when they used to sell whatever they sold, say copiers, and they took an elevator to the top floor,
Yep.
knocked on doors and then went down each
Yeah,
floor.
I did that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a problem during the pandemic because it couldn't happen. They
Yep.
wouldn't let people in the building, right? But that's how it started.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. It's about the people you know. And trust is the issue because unless clients trust you, there's no business. Actually, if no one trusts you, why are you here?
Yeah.
When you get a referral introduction, I'm going to talk with my hands. Here's what happens. So, Lori, you've offered to refer me to a prospect that I want to meet. And you know this prospect. So what happens is when you introduce me, and by the way, that's my definition of a referral. It's not a name, it's an introduction. When you introduce me, the trust my prospect has for you transfers to me. What happens then, I arrive with trust and credibility already earned. It sounds like magic. It's not, but it is. Anyway, but that's exactly what happens. The trust transfers.
And it happens quicker and it happens easier than normal, conventional outbound selling, I would say.
Yeah, I had somebody was referred to me, and I spoke to her last week, and she said, "I'm so frustrated. My business isn't built growing." I said, "What are you doing?" And it was the standard, she'd get cold outreach, emails, all of this and this. And no, her business wasn't growing. And we talked about referrals, and she says, "Yeah, that's what I have to use." So, but that's what's happening. And people think that's what they have to do. I did not do that when I started.
Yeah.
So, consulting firm I work with, I had named accounts, which was great. And then I remember one week, suddenly they had this thing that we had to call heads of sales at different companies. Cold. And I thought, that's really dumb. These are clients we were well known. Why is this happening? So the point is, I made about 3 of these calls, talked to whoever it was, and then I called a friend and talked for 20 minutes, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, I still don't.
Yeah, and if you can get introduced somewhere, and this goes for jobs right now, by the way, folks, because it's not worth your time to just send your resumes. They're getting screened out through AI. It's such a rare chance that someone that is capable of hiring you is going to get that connection made. It happens through introductions and referrals that are based on trust, relationships for people that are really looking for different roles. So that's a big one right now, Joanne, right?
It is, and I've always said that referrals work, whether you're looking for a client, whether you're looking for a job. What's the other one? Whether you're looking for a date. So a blind date is actually a referral.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a situation where someone who is a head of sales role. a company said someone at a company I know said, "Hey, we're looking for a really strong head of sales. If you know of any candidates?" I said, "Oh, I know of someone." I referred them over. That person ended up being hired. And when you think about what recruiters charge, like, I'm not a recruiter, so nobody paid me 25 or 30% of their first year salary, although it would have been nice. They did make a donation to the Barbara Giammanco Scholarship Fund, which is really great. But this is what happens when you have connections that have multiple companies that we interact with on an ongoing basis. These are valuable people. So I'd say even if you're somebody that doesn't have a big network yet, start now and start thinking about who knows a lot of people and who has a good reputation in my industry, in my field, and start connecting with them and helping them and talk up what they're posting on LinkedIn, or if they have a blog, or if they're doing videos, share what people are doing and support them. It's not just about you, it's about you help them. I like the idea of the give, give, get, it's help others first. And then when you are in a situation where you could use someone that knows other people, you can ask them, whether they could make an introduction. Like you said, Joanne, it's not a name, it's an introduction, right? That's a referral.
That's it. And it makes all the difference, which we know. But I'd also like to say, when they do get the meeting, don't talk about yourself.
Yeah.
People just want to talk about themselves. And really, what clients or even hiring people want to know is, what did you do in another company? What are your values? How are you going to work? All of that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference. Um, when you have this phrase, the clients don't care about us. They just care about what we do for them.
Yeah. And here's another tip for people is then thank that person who referred you. And even before you have a meeting, even if you don't get a meeting, send a note to say, "Hey, thanks for thinking of me. It turns out this connection didn't work out, but I really appreciate that you thought of me." You don't have to wait until you close business to thank someone. But if that happens too, be generous and, if nothing else, send a handwritten card. Old school, right, Joanne?
Or old school, yes, and I tell people all the time, right? Who gets handwritten notes anymore?
Yeah.
We don't. So people, that's just the courteous thing to do. One time I remember I referred someone, and this was a client of mine, and I talked to my client, and she said, "I'm so glad you referred so and so. We're working with her." And I never heard from her.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's something we learned at the Sales Decades Project when we all met in person was that there's so many things that many of us started doing years and years ago, like a handwritten note, even though, yes, I know it's hard sometimes to find an address, but in the situations where you can do that, send to the company headquarters or what have you, it makes a difference. It makes you stand out. And these things that some of us have done for years on end are in vogue now. They're very fashionable. And I love that. I love that it's all about the human now with so much AI involved.
Yeah.
It this we're the differentiators. We're the empathy people, we're bringing the empathy and the listening and seeing where people are and meeting in person, if we can, and all those things that were not cool a handful of years ago.
Right? It's it's being human, Lori. It
Yeah.
is.
And, the last thing I wanna mention, Joanne, is that you have always been very supportive of women in sales roles and helping to speak up about getting more women into business-to-business selling. And I just wanna thank you for that because you've been a good role model and a very passionate advocate for kind of changing the face of sales. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I do remember at one point, I don't know how many years ago, when we went to meetings, it was all men.
Yeah.
and we said, "We need to do something about this." Well, the first thing we needed to do was to make them aware of it because they weren't even aware.
Right. They hadn't noticed. That's right.
That changed. Yes, it did.
Yes, it's changed. Well, Joanne, it's really a pleasure. How can people reach you? Should they connect with you on LinkedIn?
Please do. That would be wonderful.
Okay.
And if you're one of these people looking for a job, I'm glad to chat with you about some strategies you can use. If you're one of these people who's in a sales role and would like to chat, whoever would like to chat about everything, let me know. I'll tell you all about my family.
Just reach out to Joanne. That's Joanne Black. She's founder of No More Cold Calling, strategic advisor for revenue growth. Joanne, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.